Hi, welcome to the Capsule 21 podcast. My name is Middlemarch, and my co-hosts are Dove and Piv. And Capsule 21 is an art collective. It's an art project. It is a website, capsule21.com, but it's really a group of three people who are dedicated to creating timeless art and doing it through the blockchain and doing it through on-chain art, but also being critical of the blockchain and critical of on-chain art and engaging with things in a smart way. And the Capsule 21 podcast is a podcast, but it is also a Twitter space. So if you are listening to this, you are either reclining on a comfortable chair in your house with Spotify or another podcasting service, or you're actively engaging in the Twitter chat right now. Both are very valid ways, but with the Twitter engagement on Twitter Spaces, you can boost your personal brand and appear on the podcast. So if you're listening to this and it's not 5 p.m.-ish on a Thursday, you should consider following me because I host the space. It's at Dumb Name Numbers. So it's Dumb Name Numbers. It's kind of a cute name on Twitter, and you can make an appearance next time at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Today is no accident that we are allowing people boost their careers by appearing on the podcast, because today the theme, the episode is a career episode. It is an episode about boosting your career through podcasts and otherwise. And I and my co-hosts are going to talk a little bit about our careers and advice and ideas that we have about our careers in general, about our careers in NFTs. We're going to take questions, hear from y'all about your career tips and aspirations, and we're going to dig deep into some of the older Capsule 21 NFT projects that are part of the career growth of the Art Collective and are amazing, but you might have forgotten about or not known about, and you're going to really regret that, but you're going to feel great validation very soon. Specifically, we're going to touch on Punk Pixels, which was a project Piv and I worked on earlier this year. It's about taking every single pixel in the CryptoPunks and selling it. So it's a lot of things you can buy and sell, but it's very cheap. It's very cute. And also, we're going to dig into Moonlake by Dovetail, which is a solo Dovetail project that deals with the idea of entropy and about how everything gets worse all the time. But maybe that, savoring that concept is kind of a delicious, aching beauty to it, and just had its first sale. So it's really important. So welcome to the career episode. So to start, what is the way to have a good career? So I'll speaking for myself, I can maybe frame things. What has been my career? So my name's Middlemarch. That is my ETH name in the Ethereum NFT community. My real name's Tom Lehman. My government name is Tom Lehman. I'm someone who has, I'm 38 years old. I'm someone who has done a couple of interesting things in my career that can maybe be helpful. One thing is, out of college, I worked at a hedge fund for a short period of time, so I can talk a little about finance. I then went on to start a company called Genius.com. It's called Genius, originally called Rap Genius, Genius.com. So basically a music website. You can go and read lyrics and click on lyrics and see what they mean. So it's like this music meaning site, always looking for meaning. Raised a lot of money, some of it from Andreessen Horowitz. You may have heard of them. Took it to a pretty recently large company, 120 employees. I was a CEO, and then we sold it. So that was my previous job. And then I got into NFTs. And I really think NFTs, although I criticize them now, and now they actually officially are dead. So don't buy any more and sell the ones that you have, because it's a bear market. I still believe in NFTs. And the reason I believe in NFTs is because, trust me, I've explored the other side of things. I've explored Web 2. And it is not so great. And so, to me, there's no such thing as good. There's no such thing as bad. It's always compared to what. And so that's a theme in one's career, because there is no perfect career. There is no perfect job. And when I think about career advice, the number one piece of advice I give is to listen to the Blink-182 song called All the Small Things. Okay, if you've ever heard of Blink-182, if you're younger than I am, you might have heard about them in a music theory class or a history book. But basically, they were a sort of pop punk band from like the late 90s. And anyway, they have this song called All the Small Things. And on it, there's this line where it says, late night, come home, work sucks, I know. Okay, and that's really all you have to know about your career is work sucks, I know. So if someone's complaining about their career, or you're complaining, just imagine that you're saying work sucks and someone else is saying, I know. So if someone complains to me, it's like, work sucks. I know it sucks. That's the whole point. So it's work, and there's no perfect job. But the good part about working being so terrible is that Most people don't do it. Most people will not do anything. So if you walk down the street and see all these office buildings and wonder what's going on in them, you might be surprised to know, and I've experienced in this, no one's doing anything. Everyone is just sitting there, and they're not even like going on the internet, really. They're just like kind of like doing nothing, really. And so, anyone who can do anything and stick to anything and have faith in themselves, I believe, can have a very good career. My big career view is this idea that you should not worry too much about the details. I have this concept called worse is better, where you want to put out something, you want to put a product out into the world, you want to create a draft of something to show someone. You really want to just get the big idea right and not focus on the details. If you are in the right area, if you are in the right sector, and you are pointed in the right direction, you can figure out the details. And so, as an example, I believe that the blockchain thing that we're all involved in is a right sector. I think that digital media and advertising, which was what I was doing with Genius, depending on how you're doing it and all this kind of stuff. But what I was doing before was a very, very challenging situation, and maybe not the right direction to be pointed in. So how do you pick the right direction? So once you have an idea, right, you also have to have some mode of faith, because if you have already figured out everything, if you've already figured out your whole path in life, then it's too late to pick a direction. You have to pick a direction before you have things figured out. You have to have faith that you'll figure out the details. In my life, I got my first opportunity for a technology job because I took a part-time job at my college helping people with their computers. I was what's called a computer assistant. So back then, again, you can get out your textbooks. There was this thing called spyware, which was basically these like programs that would get on your computer and like launch pop-ups. It sounds absurd. And so you would run these spyware checkers, and I was basically paid, $10 an hour to do that for other people at the college. And at the time, I thought that this was the biggest possible waste of time. I was like, why am I doing this? And then I got the call from the hedge fund who had emailed all of these people randomly because they thought these would be good, and they got that. And that was how I first learned to program. And that is how I, got into technology. So it was this weird arc. I didn't set out to say I was doing it. And so you have to really trust the fact that the dots are going to connect themselves, and that you have to trust that you are the dumbest you'll ever be right now. Like literally, like everyone in this space is literally the dumbest they will ever be. And so if you don't think you're the dumbest you'll ever be, then trust me, you got a big problem, because if you were banking on being dumber, don't do that. You got to bank on being smarter. The path will become clear. There are important things to be able to do. So one important thing is a sense of humor. So if you want to have a good career, you have to have a good sense of humor. And I don't just mean that in like the sort of like cute, like Zen way of like, you got to laugh at yourself and you got to laugh at the mysteries of the universe. It's like, no, you literally have to be able to be funny with people. And that's because it's a great way to build rapport with people. And if there's like a little bit of drama or friction between you and someone else, a great way to reassure them that actually everything is fine is to make a little bit of a joke. So I think it's very hard to find a great leader or a great business career person who doesn't have a good sense of humor, particularly in sales. So you need a good sense of humor. I suggest watching old episodes of The Simpsons or consuming. I don't know. That's how kind of I learned to have a good sense of humor. I was studying The Simpsons, but it's really tough. Also, public speaking ability is incredibly important. There is just people do not want to buy something from someone who cannot speak about it. And that doesn't mean in front of 1,000 people, although it can help. Even in a meeting, even in this space, can you speak? Can you speak in a way that you own your own voice? And to me, the best way to do that is to pretend. And when I mean pretend, I really mean fake it. Fake it till you make it. So as an example, the most important quality of a good public speaker is the appearance that they are confident, the appearance that they are having fun. So if you are not having fun, you should pretend that you're having fun, and people will think that you're a great public speaker. Similarly, just acting excited about anything. Most people are incapable about acting excited about anything they ever do. They just literally cannot be excited, even about their idea. They come up with an idea. It's their best idea ever, and they can't actually act excited about it. They're not excited about their own best idea. So if you can do that, you're ahead of the game. And obviously, you got speaking, and then people will say programming. Being able to build. And this is less of a universal truth, because if you can build, if you can program, like you will always have a certain advantage. It's true. Like I had a very big advantage coming into this space, being able to program. I do program. At the same time, there has never been a situation where I've looked at it and really thought, wow, the bottleneck here is programming. If we could only be better at technology, we would win. It's never the absolute bottleneck. The bottleneck is business, like how to turn this into money, and the bottleneck is marketing, how to get people to know about this, and the bottleneck is sales, how to get people to to buy it. Now, the difference between marketing and sales is a whole thing, and I ran a whole thing about that. You could talk about it forever, but basically, marketing is sales at a greater scale, and sales is like person to person, but they work together. But that is the whole game, basically. So you always have this paradox of like tech is so important, but it's never the ultimate thing that holds you back. Where a sense of humor can hold you back, and sales. Sales is another big thing. Of course, you're selling all the time, and when you're selling, you're teaching. I very much believe in selling being a teaching exercise. So think about your ability to teach. And so, yeah, that's how to have a good career. My last two piece of advice would be just keep in mind there's something called humility. Astrology has outlasted every single scientific theory. There's never been a scientific theory that has lasted longer than astrology. So what's so great about science? Exactly. If it can't even outlast astrology, there's so many scientific theories that were thought to be correct at the time and then not. So you have to have some humility even when you're in it. And then also just don't buy any NFTs. Don't buy any NFTs or cryptocurrencies. And the reason is you just don't have an edge. There are smarter people out there than you who are doing it, and you just really shouldn't do it. You should do it to support and art stuff, but just any NFT you buy, you should not necessarily count on it going to zero. But what I would think about it is that you will never be able to sell it for any money ever. And that's kind of the same thing as going to zero, but it's scarier because it's like this thing actually could be like kind of valuable, but I just can never sell it ever. So don't buy NFTs, sell the NFTs you have now. Even if you take a loss, it's better than it going to zero. I'm half kidding about this, but I'm in a dumping mode right now because I've accumulated too many NFTs, but that might not apply to you. This is not actually career advice. So that is the surefire way to have a good career. I didn't really touch so much on NFTs because I want to get in it with my co-host, but I was hoping Dov and Piv, maybe you could speak a little bit about career advice as you see it. Welcome to the pod, everyone.
Thank you. Piv, do you want to go first?
Do you really want me to go after this?
Yes, I don't want to upstage Middlemarch. And
this was like the most amazing talk again about career. And now we have to come. I think
I prepared for it, so it's not. But yeah, go ahead. You go. Because it's the perspectives. It's perspective. So it doesn't even matter. Perspectives.
I think my career was very different from yours. It couldn't be more different, I think. I was an architect. I worked on buildings all the time. And what you said, I think it's, as an architect, it's impossible not to work. You say most people don't work. I think there are quite a lot of professions that it's impossible not to work, but you need to make plans and you have to prepare them and everything has to be ready. Also, what you said, you have to don't mind the details. In architecture, you have to mind the details all the time. The smallest drawings are literally called details, like technical details.
This is amazing. I really love this. It's the perspective. So I think one thing I would just say is I think there might be I've never done. It's actually now I'm doing some client work as I do some consulting in the Web3 space, but I've never done like client work. I've been a client and I've been a terror. Like I've been the worst client you could ever imagine. But when I say no one's doing anything, what I mean more so is that if you go to a company and people are employees of that company and get what's called a W-2 in America, where you're just like on the salary, clocking in and there's no hours, those people don't do anything. Client work, I think, is hell for this reason that you describe.
Yeah. Another thing I have to think of, we talked about Koolhaas before, the architect, and he got some remarks that the building was not really nicely finished, and then he said, "No money, no details."
That's amazing. So. I would say no money, all details. All you get is details, and you don't get the big idea. But yeah, no, I think that's an important thing. But isn't modern?
But in architecture, details really have this meaning of like how things come together, like how your floor connects with the wall and the finishing of a plinth, and so that's called a detail, and you can make a drawing of this connection point. But yeah, so I was an architect for like 10 years, 12 years, and I worked on big buildings, and then I started doing this. Another thing I heard Hydrate said that he preferred writing to making artwork, I think, today. There's another architect, Le Corbusier, the French modernist architect. He also preferred books to buildings because he said that they last much longer. So I had to think of that too.
I really like that. What's your best career advice?
Oh, that's so hard. I know we're making a podcast about career, but what I have always done, and I never understood that. I always try to do a lot of other things too. I made a movie at some point, and then I saw one of my colleagues, and he said, no, I only do architecture because you can only be good at one thing. And I just couldn't understand that. I even couldn't stand it. So if my career advice would be try other things too, or do other things.
I love that advice.
Wait, how's the movie? Is it good? Do you like it?
Sorry?
That's so cool.
I like it. But it's how would you say that? It's more like an art movie. But it was shown, yes, in several places, and it was quite nice, yes.
Damn. Awesome.
The issue with only doing one thing, as I see it, right, is that you think, okay, that's the way to do the most, right? Because I'm going to focus on this. And that's what I actually thought with Genius for a long time. And then what I find to be the problem is if that one thing starts going not so good, you really just have a big issue in terms of your psychology and your psyche and your mental weathers and everything. That really happened to me about 5 years into Genius. And now I really believe it's a terrible idea to only do one thing. You can't have all of your ego. Sorry, there's something called ego. You can have all of your ego in one ego container. You have to have other containers so you can have a success here and maybe there. So for me, it was always ceramics. Basically, that was my big side thing. And then I launched a sweater brand called Tricot. You can check out my ceramics at tomlehmanceramics.com. It's for sale. I sell everything. You got to sell. So go for it. And Tricot Paris is obviously the sweater. So you have to have other things. But you also, it's a duality. It's a dialectic. Anyway, go on, Piv.
No, that was about it, I think.
Cool.
But also to find out what you really like, you also have to try a lot of things. I think I have one more thing I can tell about my career. When I was young, I also worked at a 3-star Michelin restaurant.
Oh my God!
Whoa.
So that's when
Everybody's
the
quiet
NFT
now.
is stored 100% on the chain, right? Or where's the NFT stored for that type of star?
Yeah, your resume needs
What?
an NFT so you can prove it.
No, I'm saying that that's the highest form of on-chain art is produced at a restaurant like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm referencing the tweet. I'm referencing the famous tweet.
Yeah, the famous D.
Yeah.
tweet. Yeah. That's crazy. That's so cool. You've lived such an funnily, Piv and I, you and I haven't really talked much about our backgrounds. I didn't know any of those things about the movie or the Michelin star work experience.
That's
really,
why
really
I know
cool.
how to pronounce it. Yes, we talked about this before. I think these Michelin stars.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I can talk about my background, but I think the thing that you said about, you have to try a million things is really true. I understand that I'm on like the younger side of things here, especially
Yeah.
among both of you as co-hosts, being only 24. But I think I've tried a good amount of things, and that's the advice that I've been given my whole life, and I've like found to be the most fruitful advice that I've ever gotten is to just try a bunch of stuff. The first like job I ever had was not like normal kid stuff like mowing lawns because I really hated being outside. I used to sell. If you guys are my age or older, if you're younger than 24, you won't know what I'm talking about. But if you're 24 or older and you were extremely online, you'll remember the forum signature and the forum picture. I'm talking about like the BB forums. It's like a specific hobby. You go and you post, and then you make thread. Forums. This is a thing that people know what I'm talking about. And I used to create signatures for people. I would create a cool graphic, and I would go download, Photoshop brushes from DeviantArt and Dafont.com and all of these things. I would just go download brushes and kind of make these really, really crappy, graphic art designs for people. I still have them all saved. They're very cute to look at because they are like.
So you'd sell these? You'd
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were.
Wow.
I had a little shop. I had a PayPal that my dad helped me set up, and yeah, that was my first. That's the first time I ever made money. Now, did I make very much money? No, probably in the 2 years that I did it, I made $50 because I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah, but inflation though. I mean, back then.
Oh, true. Yeah, 10 years ago, $50. Maybe it's worth more now. But that was the first job that I had, and then when I got older, I bought and sold Supreme. So I would coincidentally, every Thursday, I would go on SupremeNewYork.com and I would buy everything that I could buy with like birthday money. And then I would resell it on Reddit, where I was like a moderator of the Supreme clothing subreddit. And I knew I used to like write guides for like how to do a legit check to see if like a hoodie's real. So that's the next job that I had. And then I tried working one quote unquote real job. I worked at a McDonald's for like a day and then I quit because I didn't like it. I quit because it wasn't good and the pay sucked and I was making more money, selling Supreme to 12-year-olds than I was working at McDonald's. So I just decided that wasn't for me. That was that. But then I turned 18 and I graduated high school and I realized that I can't afford rent via buying and selling these kinds of things. So I joined the military and I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps where I was at first a crypto linguist. They taught me Korean. I lived in like Monterey, California for a minute. And then I did just regular air intelligence for the remaining 3.5 or 4 years or something like that of my time in. And that's cool. Being in the military is like a cool thing. You just do like a lot of odd jobs. Like you have like your main job, but you just do like a lot of stuff, right? I got to like work in the back of the kitchen. I got to do like a lot of cleaning. I got to do a lot of like computer work as well as like a lot of like mechanical work. You just kind of do like when you're like a low ranking person in the military, you're just kind of like a body. Like your job doesn't really matter. You're just kind of a warm body for them to use for like whatever job needs to get done, right? So that was cool, and that kind of forced me to do all these jobs that if I had still been a civilian, I would have just quit like I did with McDonald's. But
do you still know the language? I didn't know that. Do you still know the language?
Yeah, I still speak Korean. I won't call myself fluent, but I think other people might call me fluent. I can like hang out. I can go to a party. I can get drinks. I can get directions, like normal stuff. Like don't talk to me about religion or politics or science or anything like that. But I can hang out. That's my Korean, level. I like lived there for a month. It was nice in Seoul. But yeah, I got out of the military a year ago. And since then...
Something you said, Dove, I think it's interesting for your career to be able to quit quickly. I had difficulty quitting. Like I was working in an office and I wanted to leave, and I always stayed longer than I wanted. And if after you quit, it always gets better. There's really no
Yeah,
reason to stay.
I'm a big fan of
If
quitting.
you can quit after a day, that's really good.
Yeah, it's funny. I
I think
actually done
that's the
that
best.
twice. I've done it. I've done it twice. I worked at McDonald's when I was like 17, and then last year when I got out of the military, I like moved back home for a short period of time, and I was like, I really wanted to get into baking. Like I've been watching all these Netflix documentaries, and I'm watching the Great British Bake Off, and I'm watching these Netflix docs where it's like the famous chocolatiers of France, and they're going to these competitions. I was like, I'm going to be a world famous baker. This is like something that I had been dreaming about for the last like 2 years in the middle. Like, I'm sitting behind a computer on deployment, thinking about how I want to get out of the military and go be a chef at a famous, restaurant and do the baking thing. And I got out of the military, and I went. I worked at a bakery, and I quit after the first day, dude. I've been thinking about it for 2 years, and after one day, I quit because I realized that the place that I was at wasn't very good, and just the way that everyone there was a dick. And I just realized that I didn't like it, and I would much rather bake at home, and I didn't like the environment, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of here. But
I don't know.
anyway,
I think sometimes you can tell, but like again, it's like a compared to what thing. Like I think when you're earlier in your career, I don't know. I remember my first job out of college. I was like, this sucks. Like I have to get up at 8 one day a week, or maybe even earlier. But it was just like, uh, anyway, go on.
yeah, so this was interesting, and I thought about that, and I felt kind of guilty about wanting to quit because I was like, God, I already did this once when I was a kid, and now, I've been through 5 years of the military experience where I just got treated like crap all the time and very bottom of the barrel, kind of treated like dirt. Um, so I was like, yeah, if I quit again, like, what does that say about me? What does that mean? But then I just realized that it doesn't, you got to go with, like, I don't know if this is good advice, but I think you should just go with your gut. Like, I was in there and I realized that it was bad and that I didn't like it and I didn't want to be there. And I knew that it wasn't because of anxiety that I didn't want to be there. I knew that it wasn't because of feeling inadequate that I didn't want to be there, because I've been inadequate before. I've been anxious before. I've been bad at a job. I've been new to a job. I've been all of these things, right? So I knew that I wasn't doing it for like a bad kind of, quote unquote, like weak reason. So I just did it, and I didn't go back, and that was that. Luckily that happened because then I decided to focus again on doing graphic design for work, which I had been doing for like side money for my entire 5 years in the military. That's kind of what I've been doing for like supplementary income, because you don't get paid. You don't get paid that much. It might be a surprise, but in the military, It's not a very high paying job. So I was doing graphic design that whole time too, and kind of honing my abilities.
Did you learn that on yourself? Graphic design?
Yeah. I've never been to school for it or anything. I've been doing it since I was like 13, as a hobby.
Yeah.
And after getting out of the military, I was like, oh, I should focus on this more seriously, because it's something that I really like doing and can see myself doing for a long time. So yeah, that's what I did, and then and now I'm here. If I can fast forward through the boring NFT part, that everyone in the NFTs I think has the same story. But I
So
don't know.
what's your
Oh, go ahead.
so let me just preface the advice. So, there's this Bob Dylan, it's also the Birds, I think, but Bob Dylan song. I think of it as a Bob Dylan song. Sorry, Birds fan. Called My Back Pages. Okay. I don't know if anyone's heard this song. Let's get some reactions. Even if you haven't heard the song, do you want to hear more from these talented people? Like, how many people do you know with these backgrounds who have these interesting things to say? Like, how many people? Let's get some reactions out there. Crypto Zonks, thank you. Anyone? Mad Yak, come on, react. No pressure. If you're listening to this in podcast form, then what I'm doing now is trying to get the algorithm going. But you don't care about that because you're going to get the content no matter who's in here. So you can fast forward the next 4 seconds. Please react, everyone. Anyway, there's a line in the song that basically says, thank you, Mediac, that basically says, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now, which gets to this idea that when you're young, you're more confident, you feel older, and then over time, you learn that you don't know anything and that you're actually younger than that now. And so when Dove is giving you advice, he's not actually younger than Piv or I am. He's actually older. So you should take his advice more seriously. So Dove, in your great advanced age, what is your career advice?
My career advice is to be very pig-headed. I'm a Taurus, I'm going to put it out. I'm a Taurus. And I think that you have to be very stubborn, and you don't even have to know what you want. You just have to know what you don't want. I think knowing what you don't want is much more important than knowing what you want. Because when you know what you don't want, then you can reject it. And you can just keep trying and rejecting and trying and rejecting and trying and rejecting, like over and over and over again, until you find something that you're like, okay, I can live with this. Or, okay, this is great and I love it. But unless you do that, cycle of trial and error, you're not going to find the thing that you like. So be very stubborn. That's my
advice. I
advice.
like this. I think you got to be a bit of a Taurus. I mean, not too much of one, but I think it's good. When I always think about stubbornness, it's like if you are trying to get something, if you're trying to ask someone for something, right? There's this concept called following up, which was something that I never knew about until I was in the work world. But now I know that unless you email someone like 10 times, nothing's going to happen. It seems kind of obvious, but this is why it's so brutal to be in client work, like at an architect thing or a law firm. Because when I'm working with a lawyer, all I'm thinking about is, hey, this lawyer's either working on my stuff or someone else's stuff right now. And they're going to choose who to work on based on who's paying the most, but also based on who's being the most annoying. So I want to always be the one saying, work on my thing, which means being very persistent. And I'm sure it's the same way in the world of architecture firms. You have multiple products. The client says, my thing's the most urgent. And then, that has effects. So it is a little bit, once you get in the world of following up, it's like a pretty deep, it's a deep world. It's a dark world. Thank you, Dove, for that. Before we move on, we've got a potential career-enhancing move that you're about to see, where someone has made the decision to appear on an NFT-related career-oriented podcast to enhance their personal brand, and that is Crypto Zunks. What's going on, Crypto Zunks?
How's your guys? Brand? So it's actually going really great right now. I was listening to this space, and I just wanted to say whatever Dove has gone through, like being able to know what he wants in life and just chasing that all the time and putting aside stuff that he doesn't like, that's probably like the best advice that you could ever get when it comes to a career. Because for a career, you actually want to pick something that you actually like doing all the time. And if you're just going to work every day and like maybe working at McDonald's, it's not really gonna get your juices flowing. So my experience was, when I was younger, I was just really into social media, and nowadays, like just even talking to you guys right now, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I'm getting really excited about it. So it's like that little spark, I guess, that once you find something like either NFTs or social media and you get into it, it doesn't become a job anymore. It's more like an art that you're basically putting out there, and it's your way of expressing whatever you feel through whatever you're doing. So yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with that, and I'm gonna go back to listening now.
Hell yeah, thank you. Yeah, Dove's a smart guy. That's why I broke my no NFTs rule to buy his NFT today, because yeah, he knows what's good. So yeah, thank you and welcome to the stage, Joel. Like that funk PFP. I've been dumping all of my funks, but I still love them. And the good news is it's impossible to dump them because there's no liquidity. So we are bros in arms on that. But yeah, thank you for your service, Dove. Like, who knows people out there? Like, maybe there's, I know some people have been in the military. I don't know anyone, and maybe this is just like my, background or whatever. I don't know anyone who, at the age of earliest possible, 18, went and spent 5 years in the military. I just, does anyone, is that something that, that is not a typical thing? And I think it's a very interesting and lends a ton of perspective. And as you mentioned, Dove, like all the different little things that, added up to a broader experience that you were forced to, to do and everything. So, and then you have Piv, it's like, do you know anyone who is in NFTs right now who worked as an architect for 10 years? You have to be pretty buttoned up to work as an architect. Like, there are apparently all these details to deal with where, I'm learning about this for the first time, but it seems like you have to be pretty buttoned up. So do you know anyone in the NFT space, anyone who has been an architect for 10 years, who has had that level of skill? So do you know anyone like Piv and Dub? So you should ask these guys questions. And, Genius raised all this money from Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz, like, any group of 3 aspiring and real podcasters who are offering you the platform for your personal brand today. So just trying to pump the Capsule 21 trio, but particularly my co-hosts. I knew some of that stuff, but it was also very, very new. And you should all listen to, take heed, essentially. You all have to take heed. So pausing for a moment, take heed at your own speed. You don't have to give us every little detail of that aspect of your mental odyssey. But if anyone has any questions or wants to talk at all, jumping off of what the Zunks was going on about, any feedback, any questions, we got a bunch of different directions to take this, but it's very raw right now. So curious what y'all think. And just to emphasize, whatever you say will be on a podcast devoted to career advice. So your commentary on the topic of career advice will reach the desired audience of many people interested in the topic of career advice, which will presumably also include people who, are doing interesting, things and active in the NFT community. So it's a very good time to say what's good, what's going on out there. Hello, Twitterverse.
Hey, I didn't want to interrupt. I have a meeting to go to in like 8 minutes, but I just wanted to say, like, congratulations on the podcast. I think a big career advice is the hardest thing to do sometimes is starting. And being your 3rd episode is exciting, and I can't wait to see where you all go from here. I think career advice is really, really, like, true real advice is needed in the space because it brings multiple perspectives into equation. I just also wanted to give a shout out to the host here because I've been following y'all's work in Capsule 21 just sort of the last few weeks, and it's really inspired me to dip into the art world, to really think about what just a simple question of what I like, what inspires me. And so it's cool to hear sort of y'all's backgrounds and just learning more about yourselves because it really, I can see the hard work and dedication in what you guys have been building. So you'll always have a supporter here. I just got this funk, so sorry for not listening to that part of the advice, but I think it was one of the communities that I see myself more, where you see more of the builders and more community and decentralization. So, but real quick, in regards to career, just the topic, I feel like I'm in an interesting position because I am a fundraiser. I've grown up through philanthropy like my whole life. It's what inspires me. It's my purpose. And this space has just opened my eyes to all of the possibilities that, we have in front of us for the next generation of donors, the next generation of folks that needs help. So I'm in the background learning, trying to see, through this blockchain technology, what we can do through like donor engagement, and just new ways to fundraise. So I appreciate this space, and I look forward to joining in, every Thursday and sharing the Spotify or the podcast to others that I've been trying to encourage to dive deep into the space. But congrats again, and I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for opening up the stage.
Hell yeah, thank you. And let me just say, you are a true exemplar, pausing during a 8-minute gap between meetings to offer career advice while you are building your career by being at work and doing what it takes to make things happen, rub sticks together. I love that. I think I used to have a lot of meetings in my life. It was a big drain, but you have to bring your full self. You got to bring your energy to that thing. So thank you. And by the way, I love the funks. I'm just trying to dump down to a more normal size. I don't need 20 funks. I don't need 24 on-chain Kevins. Sorry, on-chain Kevins. Like, the things that I like, I generally buy too much of. Don't don't do that. But yeah, shout out to the third episode. Shout out to you, Dove, and you, Piv. This is I've been talking about, again, back to me for a moment. I've been literally talking about having a podcast for about 18 years. And now finally I do. So let's go to the next person. We got Not Don 3. What is good? Tell us about your career and any advice you have for others in their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say, yeah, you three are like the three I respect the most in this space. And it's been like that for a while. So to have you guys, on this platform, Joel already said enough. Like, yeah, he said everything I wouldn't, could have said. But you guys are fucking awesome. Seriously, like you guys really, you are like the, like the heartbeat of the space in my mind. You guys really know what the fuck's going on, and I appreciate it. If you could swear enough, I apologize for that. But yeah, thank you, all three of you. Seriously. But yeah, on the career end, like I am in robotics and automation, and I didn't go to college for it. I would have needed a
I think you might have rugged, or did I just get rugged?
No, I think he rugged.
Yeah. Sorry, and not to say like it's a relief, but like there was a previous episode. I don't remember which one. I remember exactly which was episode 1, where this is, I got rugged. It was a disaster. I could see in the closed captions. Dub, you did a lot of good work on that to take it up. But yeah, audio is so important, so difficult, y'all. There is nothing worse than having a bad audio setup when it counts. And so my heart goes out to everyone.
Yeah, the problem with Twitter is that it's not even like a microphone issue. It's just that Twitter sometimes doesn't like to record you. Sometimes Twitter says no. Twitter says no thanks. And that's
the only good app, and it's still 99% bad. And it's a real challenge. But I will say thank you for the kind words about this group of people. I think what we are trying to do is basically, kind of a combination of create art, but do it in a public way and talk about it and teach about it and help other people. Like my number one rule for, and this is career advice too, by the way, my number one rule is that I will help anyone. So no one ever asks for help is one thing. Like no one ever asks for help. Like if you ask for help, I will help, because help is easy. Help is not work. Work is doing something. Work is very hard. Helping is like, hey, what do you think of this? Or I'll read this. I'll look at someone's code. I won't write code for you, but I will look at code for you. And I will always do that for free 100% of the time. And so this is always something when someone says, oh, help, like, it is a, help, like, oh, like I'm a startup founder and there's an advisor and I want to offer this person some shares in my company to help me. Like, oh, someone's advising me, someone's helping me. How can I compensate them? It's like, do not give them anything, okay? And whether it's me or anyone else, if someone's helping you, they get the privilege of being part of your thing and from learning from you. And heck, who wouldn't want to, help someone who is involved in something really important? If someone's doing work for you, then you might have to pay them a lot. But if someone's helping you, they deserve zero, and that includes for me. So if I ever ask you for anything to help you on something, don't give it to me ever, no matter what I say, no matter how, frantic I am. Not Don. Are you back in the game? What do you got? What do you got for us? You cut off right at the point you were going to give us the advice.
Yeah, when an opportunity arises, fucking take it and and own it. Like you can do whatever you want. You really can. Like, stop making a mountain out of a molehill. Like just go and conquer that, and own it. So that's about it. Yeah. Thank you.
I love that. And one thing I used to say, this was always Ben Horowitz's piece of advice, and Andreessen Horowitz thing of like, some people, it's like in Star Wars, there's a part where, sorry, nerd alert here, where they say, Han Solo says, don't tell me the odds. In life, you sometimes want the odds, but there's a lot of times when you just have to say, okay, I'm just going to do it. I don't care what the odds are. I'm going to get to the exact right answer, and I'm just going to do it. And that is a very clarity thing, because you can stop worrying about what the odds are and just worry about getting to the right answer. So yeah, just effing do it. I think, here and there, an incidental curse word. I don't like to curse. I used to when I was younger, but I'm not going to hold it against anyone here. What we're trying to drive is engagement around, talking about career advice and art. And so, Dove pinned a new tweet. So I'm going to switch gears to that in just a second. But if there's any last final questions, any questions for these folks, or does anyone want to just get on stage and, by the way, if you're on stage and you want to like say your name, like I've said some names, but you can say your name too. And then when the recording comes out of the podcast, you can then, go to that part and see your name. So, I think it's just a good practice for public speaking. If anyone, has had some desire to just get up there and practice some speaking, because I think public speaking is just very important. It's very, very, very important. So anyone out there, who we got?
I want to say real quick before we move on, and feel free to come up as well. I appreciate the kind words. Not done. That's very flattering. I think sometimes on Twitter you feel a little bit alone. It's like I have 2,500 followers or something, but I'm like, is anyone reading like my tweets? So it's nice that people are. It's nice to be appreciated, and it's nice of you to say those things. I appreciate you, and I love the Basquiat PFP and banner. Really, really sick.
Thank you. Yeah. I see crypto down there. Sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I guess like aside from career advice, like Middlemarch, you had mentioned like don't buy NFTs. But a lot of us are in this space, as a career or hopefully in the future as a, down the line. But I agree with it wholeheartedly, and I feel like right now this space is very toxic, and it's not good, and it's not going in a good direction. But just wondering, like, a lot of things, but like, where did we go wrong? How can we fix it? And do we have to burn it all down and then build it back up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think my answer is that it is not actually broken. But what has happened in this space is that Web3 has made the typical commercialization and capitalistic trappings of the arts more transparent, right? So it's the same stuff that's always been happening, but because it's happening in Web3 and on this blockchain where everything is visible, everything's out in the public, we have this kind of vibe that like, oh, we're going to share everything and show you everything and everything's public, etc. Now you can just see it very plainly. I think that's the big difference. So I don't think it's broken. I think we are in the same situation that a lot of artists have been in historically. I was just watching a video yesterday about Lauryn Hill, and Lauryn Hill had a long career battle with the rights to her music, right? And something that she's talked about all the time is how to try and separate art from commerce and like win her masters back from the industry that like took it from her and kind of like exploited her and like made 90% of all the money that she was bringing in for them. And Kanye West has talked about this too a lot, and Taylor Swift as well. This is a common thing, and that's just in music, but that happens a lot in the trad art world as well. So I don't know if that is inspiring or demoralizing, but maybe it is comforting to know that this is not a new situation. We just kind of have to learn how to adapt to it and try to fix it as much as we can. And yeah. That's I think that's my take.
Yeah, I think look, I shouldn't say don't buy NFTs, because I think that you can't connect the dots in advance. And so my my real answer would be, sometimes you have to buy NFTs to kind of learn about them, to get in the game, to meet people, to understand why it's bad to buy NFTs. And you can't know this. You have to pursue some curiosity here, but in a responsible. You just have to be responsible about it. And you have to like think about it in a skeptical way, because there is something called like the heat of the moment, and it seems good, and then it's almost always like what was I thinking on that one? But you have to get in the game. You can't just sit on the sidelines and watch and not spend any money. Like, I've never been in a situation where not spending money is like a good strategy, but you can't spend too much, and that's always been my problem basically when it comes to these kinds of things. You can't just sit there and wait for opportunities for free to come to you. Now, is there a way there is this great adage, cone, if you will, that I always say when it comes to taxes and accountings. You want your gains to be capital gains, meaning from the sale of assets, versus income, but you want your losses to be business losses, not capital losses, i.e. selling things at a loss. So if you are actually trying to get serious about this, what you might think about is not necessarily how do you have an LLC, which is good anyway, you should do that, but how you can begin to think about this and characterize it in a way where you are a business, and you can't just do it as a hobby, but like I do it all day, every day, I do it every second. It's really exhausting, actually. So it's like, if you're really doing this for real, you have to figure out a way to characterize the income and loss in terms of favorable tax things with your accountant in a good way. If you're doing it as a hobby, then that's one thing, and you're learning, but like you kind of got to get sharper on it as well. So part of it is, stuff you have to buy for a business activity to make money, but you have to like think about that in a good way. Yeah, I don't think anything's wrong with the space. I think if you, again, it's compared to what? If you look at the other side, like look at the S&P right now, like everything is it's all red. Everything is red. So NFTs, I think, are doing. Zunks, what's up?
Oh, no, I just wanted to speak on another thing that happened a while back. So I guess I'm not sure if most of you guys know, but I started out as a social media manager for an NFT launch company, basically. And last year I worked on more than 26 exactly NFT launches. And one thing I learned was in the Web2 world, like where I come from working before, a lot of people don't like it when you try to take initiative and they see it as you're doing something that it's not your place to do. And really in the Web3 space, if you wanna progress, you have to be different, and that involves like taking that ownership of stuff. So I wanted to highlight one of these things that happened last year. So we were doing this drop with St. Jude's Children's Hospital and SpaceX, and one of the business developers, I guess, did not know how the platform worked. So every time an auction was coming to a close, he would basically just say, "Oh, the drop's almost over." And the goal of an auction is to make as much money as you can. So you're not really supposed to tell people that they're not going to be able to spend money anymore. So at that moment, I think we made like $216,000, and I was like, okay, screw it. I'm just gonna get in and start talking to like the people that were on the Clubhouse, because this was like last September when Clubhouse was still a thing. And I took that chance, and it was pretty scary. It was like I could lose my job over it, but I said screw it. And at the end of the auction, we ended up making around $454,000 instead. So just because of taking that chance and like speaking up about it and letting people know that that's not actually how the tools work and they can still keep bidding, I was able to increase the amount of people that were spending money and almost doubling it, I guess. So the more chances you take, the better, or the more outcomes you could get that are favorable to you, versus if you just don't take them, you're never going to know. So I think, yeah, like just keep trying stuff and eventually something will work. The more times you do something, the more times you're going to make something back.
For sure. That's kind of the classic adage of, ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Exactly.
But if it's me, ask
will
permission.
always
Okay, if
speak for
it's
you.
me, don't ask me for effing forgiveness because you don't get it. No, I'm just kidding. I'll give it to you. Maybe, but it's fine.
Yeah, like it's like no one's gonna be mad at you if you made an extra $250,000, right? And if they are, then there's something wrong with them. So it's like there's things that you can do to get ahead of things, and you should do every single one of those things you can.
Heck yeah. This is a good time for us to segue into punk pixels. I think, right? This is a good
Yes,
segue time.
yes. So this is now we're talking about careers in action, news you can use, and we used it, and you can watch what we did with it, and maybe you've seen it, but you can see it again. Basically, we're going back in time to trying to, before some people might say that the three of us are great people, back when no one really knew who we were. Actually, Piv was the first famous person of the three of us, and is still the most famous independent, I think we can say the most famous independent artist of the three of us. basically, yes, I would say close call, but he was definitely the earliest. Piv got his start, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Piv, but it's fun to describe you as the icon you were to me before we started talking. Piv got his start when he put together a riff on basically the Maryland diptych, the Andy Warhol Maryland diptych thing with Maryland's face duplicated, and then we did this project on it in Capsule 21, on-chain Maryland diptychs. But Piv did the first one. He took the Funk Maryland, a different one than we use now, and put it on the screen and dressed it up like this, and did some other cool things where he changed the size, and it's actually cooler in some ways. And he tweeted it out. At the time, Ryder Rips, who is a meme artist involved in all kinds of things now, and whatever controversial, was doing art criticism, and boom, Ryder Rips gave Piv's thing the top rating. And I was following Ryder Rips because he was the guy who introduced me to Funks, and I saw this and I was like, wow, that's cool. Ryder likes it. Boom, like Piv in the game. And Piv was able to do, and also Piv was liked by another person who's actually my wife's friend's husband, who is a huge meme also, bigger than Ryder Rips, I guess, actually. Maybe not. Sorry, anyone listening to this, I'm not judging you. Both great. This guy, Jack Butcher, who was also a collector of Piv. And then Piv was hot, and I was trying to chase him down. Is that accurate, Piv?
The last part is indeed accurate. Yes. No. Most of it is quite accurate.
Then what happened? I mean, look, it was Piv's idea to do this. Piv wanted to do the retrospective, by the way. So you should talk. I'm done talking.
You're done talking?
For the moment. You talk now. You take up the thread of what's the history?
Yeah, I think then we started talking, but you were working already on your fashion hat punks.
Yes, that was my first. Yes. My first project in NFTs was Forever Message, because I thought it was going to be really cool to like avoid censorship or whatever, but people don't care about that much. But if you want to go to it, Mad Yak has done it. Obviously, Piv and Dove have done it. Thank you both. Forevermessage.com. But then I was like, okay, or forevermessage.xyz. And then I was like, okay, I want to do an iconic PFP project. And this was the fashion hats thing. It was related to another censorship related thing. And then it was like, okay, I'm doing 2 NFT projects. I'm doing an iconic PFP thing, and I'm doing like an abstract kind of quote unquote conceptual one. And Piv had this amazing tweet where he said like basically, I'm going to sell the pixels of this one punk. And I thought, wow, that's it.
And you thought, let's do it bigger.
Let's do it bigger. How did you have the idea to do even the pixels? Can we pin that pixels thing? Hold on, let me figure out how to pin this.
I tweeted it yesterday on the capsule.
On the capsule one. Hold on, maybe I can find it on my Twitter. Okay, if you're listening to the podcast, this will be on the show notes. That's actually false. We don't have show notes. If anyone knows how to do them, that's good, but please let me know. But for now, you can see if you're in the space, you can see in the nest on the top the idea behind Punk Pixels. And I'm going to pin actually this new thing, which is, here we go, the thing at the top. F it. First 191 people to interact, get a pixel. That was the tweet right there. Without that tweet, Capsule 21 would not exist.
But I'm doing a couple of tweets on the Punk Pixels this week on Capsule 21, and I'm digging through our first chats again about that, and that's quite funny. It's something Dove tweeted also a couple of days ago about the wrong colors of the cyberpunks. And there are really a lot of these images that are like tryouts and look different, because at some point we wondered if we should add the punk or not. So I think there are four versions, an art house version and I'm going to tweet a bit of these things too. I think they are nice to have these early tryouts of certain projects.
It would be, because these are all on Rinkeby, and Rinkeby is now dead. It would be great to like see all of this stuff, because in the end we decided to go with. Also, we got Hydrate in the other chat saying don't self punk, so I just delisted my hoodie. So anyway, thank you for that, Hydrate. If you're listening to this in heaven or in the space or in the recording, but yeah, we would make decisions like, okay, what is the background color treatment of this thing, right? Because it's all the pixels and all the punks. There are 2 million non-background punk pixels, and we wanted to make an NFT for each one. This was kind of like a conceptual project, basically 2 million NFTs in a single contract. Pretty cool stuff. A lot of work to do, and also a lot of fun.
Another fun thing is, I think the idea was to have it low effort, and you started with a version that had all the pixels of just 24 on 24 pixels for every punk. And I think then I said, no, we can't do that. We just can't do the pixels of the punk itself. And then like for a couple of hours, you became very silent.
I didn't think it was possible.
To come back, you said?
I didn't think it was possible. So just to also say this again.
Yeah.
So there's 24 by 24 in one thing. That's 576 total, 24 times 24. And more than half are background pixels, which is a kind of great metaphor for like atomism. And, it's like we're mostly empty space, like atoms in the void is like what they used to say about it in ancient Greece. So very easy to construct a NFT where each token is one of the pixels of the 576, background inclusive. And the reason for this is all you do is take the token ID. Suppose the token ID is 23. Then you go across, starting at the top, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 23. And that's the last pixel in the first row of the first image. And if the token number is some bigger thing, you basically divide by 24, and that is the punk index. And you do a modulo by 24, i.e. you see the remainder that is left over when you divide, and that is the pixel index within that punk. And to find the actual pixel, you just count from the top left of the punk down to the pixel index that you have. So any number is extremely easy to point out the exact pixel it refers to. So, but if every punk is not the same number of pixels, if every punk is not 576 but something else, then if you have a very big number, you have to count how many pixels are leading up to that number that you are in. So it's like, how many punks do you need to traverse to get to your pixel number? So very hard to do. Anyone out there, smarty pants, you know how to do that? That's what I thought. Anyway, go on, Pip.
No, you go on. I think that's interesting.
So anyway, I came up with the idea of how to do it, where I basically I had to compute how many non-background pixels were in each punk. Okay, I mean, it's almost like exhausting to even describe this, and like mint the thing. Okay, this is an NFT you should buy. It was a pain, really annoying to do. Come up with how many pixels are in each punk. This punk has 199. This punk has 240. This punk has 100. The hoodies are the biggest, and basically you write down all those in a list, and then you store that in the contract. And then when you have a pixel ID, when you have a you want to find the millionth pixel, you basically go and you do what's called a binary search through that list to find the right punk. So you try the middle of the list, and then if it's above, you try binary search. I used GitHub Copilot to write this for me. It's very hard to like write a binary search algorithm, and it's not in Solidity for some reason. So you use that binary search thing, and then you are done. Now, there's another layer on top of this punk pixels thing, which is annoying, which is that you can't basically, you don't want to mint all the pixels in order, right? So like if someone's minting 1 and then someone mints 2, you don't want those pixels to be right next to one another. So what you do is you want to have there be some randomness or chaos. It's actually not random, so you can game punk pixels if you really want to. I recommend doing that, I guess, or not. But basically, there's this technology this technique really called a linear congruential generator, which really, that sounds complicated, right? That sounds smart, which is a way of taking a orderly input, orderly meaning like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and convert it to a chaotic output, which is to say four numbers between 1 and 2 million that don't seem to be related. So the fact that you can go from an ID to a pixel index in a randomish way, and then from a pixel index to having drawing the image is pretty amazing. And then on top of that, we calculated the rarity of all the pixels based on their color frequency, which then led to a lot of interesting talk about how the rarest pixel in the entire collection is the mole over the shadow beard on Punk. What's it called? And so the idea being, not only was this conceptual in terms of what you are getting, but it also flipped the rarity thing, on its head. And you can go and you can see in OpenSea. I guess we were the first to do rarities in the pixels, but then in Cyberpunks we had the ranks. But in OpenSea you can go and see, here are all the rarest pixels. And so I think someone minted the center of the alien's nose, which is probably the market for these things is not like super liquid. But if you want to, make a bid on the center, I might do that actually on the alien's nose. You could do that. So this was a very well thought out, and not to pat Pib too much in the back or myself, this is a very well thought out project. It mints for about 35 cents per token if you want to go check it out. But I really thought with this would be the end. I was done with NFTs. I did one fashion app thing, which was also mint. I did one project on the PFP front, great project. I did one project on the conceptual side, and that was it. Thank you very much. I will take my flowers. But then I met Dove.
Rip. R.I.P. That's funny. That's a good way to end that.
How did I meet you, Dove?
I think we were the two biggest nerds in the Not Larva Labs Discord. Out of all the active members in there, you and I were the most nerdy about the intricacies of the punks and like really getting into the nitty gritty, the details of them. And I was making punks in different color palettes. I was making them in the Game Boy color palette. I was doing them in black and white. I was doing them in grayscale. I made one that was the Virtual Boy color palette. I did dark mode funks. I was doing all sorts of stuff, just playing with I wasn't doing any like new traits or new, compositions or anything, which I think is, Piv's strong suit is drawing new things and playing with composition to create something new. I was just toying around with colors. And I wanted a challenge. I was doing okay, how many, can I do all of these in 2 colors? Can I make every single punk out of 2 colors? And I thought, well, to test that, I need to know which punk has the highest color count. Which one has the most individual, unique colors on it? And that'll be the one that's the most difficult to turn into a 2-color punk. This was the idea for the collection I had at the time. So you were doing the punk pixels, and you were doing some like I think you had done what's the rarest color, not color count. But I asked you what do you know which one has the highest color count? And there's I don't want to say famous, but famous to me, it sticks in my mind. A screenshot where I ask you, "Hey, Middlemarch, do you know which funk has the highest color count?" And you said, "I don't. Maybe you can quote it better." Do you remember what it was exactly?
Yeah, I basically said like, "Ha ha 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 ha." Is that an F? I might even use the explicit. Is that an effing joke? I was basically saying, "Are you kidding me?" Of course I know that, and of course I would love to answer that. I had basically at the time, and this kind of goes to, again, you can't connect the dots. Like I had spent a lot of time, and I was the first to do this, basically taking all the punk images and turning them into pixel data so that I could have in my computer. And, I was learning basically how to do programmatic manipulation with images on a very granular level, pixel level, which is not like that useful for a lot of things. But I was able to get, but for 24 by 24, you can actually do a lot with just the pixels. So I was able to get, a setup where I could look at the pixels of any punk, and it was all set up for me perfectly. And so it really took me about 2 seconds. And this is why it's also important to ask the question, why programming isn't the bottleneck. I've had to ask the question. It really took me about 2 seconds to go and just say, okay, unique color, sort, go. And it was sick. And then I sorted by fewest colors, and I found there were But that's really the best when a simple question yields an interesting result. That's not always the case. Sometimes the truth is not interesting.
And in this case, it's kind of interesting. I think more people thought it was funny that I cared about it than were actually interested in the answer. But it's cool. And now I own the highest color count CryptoFunk, which is 7334. It's kind of neat. I don't know. I think it's cool. I don't know how many other people think it's interesting, but I think it's interesting.
I think it's cool, and I got my iconic. I got my iconic 2-color. I was going back through our chat. That was basically what we were talking about. Like, you were helping me strategize about the price to pay for these things, and I paid quite a price. Now looking back at my history here, but let's just jump ahead though, because we did Cyberfunks, and that was this very cool, experience for me to create a PFP project that actually sold, and I still own a ton of those. And but then I want to get back to just Moonlake for a second, because Moonlake pioneered the not all everything has to be on chain in a perfect way thing. That was the reason that I have this Hex PFP, because this is a Vertigo punk that is quasi on chain, quasi not. I also just bought a Moonlake, so I want to pump my bag. And this is Dub's first kind of one-of-one solo thing in the backstory, so no one can really say what happened in the backstory there. So yeah, let's revisit Moonlake for a second. Let me try to post the tweet.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for buying Moonlake 2 today. Really, really cool. I'm very proud of that, and I'm very thankful for that. It's really
sick.
neat. I have
art.
that pinned up to the top if anyone wants to see what Moonlake 2 is. But the backstory is that we were doing all of these on-chain projects, and I was kind of getting a little tired of the on-chain stuff, because I was annoyed that I could only do pixel art or otherwise like vector art, and it got me thinking about, what does it mean for something to be on chain? What this is, now this has kind of become like an important part of my Web3 philosophy. But when I started making Moonlake, it was not. It was like a new idea for me to think like, okay, like what is the blockchain actually like? Let's think very critically about what on-chain art is versus off-chain art, because I think people are using it as a kind of a buzzword to sell stuff. Obviously, Capsule 21 are not the only people doing on-chain art. There's a lot of people doing it, on-chain monkeys and so on and so. There's a lot of projects, right? So I was thinking, what does that mean? How do you put art on chain? Is it better than IPFS? Because IPFS is like, when you dig into it, it's pretty good. IPFS is pretty good. It's good. Look into it. It's good. A shocking news. IPFS is very good technology, and so no, I was just thinking about, okay, what does it mean? And so if we want to challenge what it means to be on-chain art, and we also want to challenge, this is around the time of the Ryder Rip Sport Apes. So I was thinking about conceptual art on the blockchain. Ryder Rip Sport Apes are on IPFS, but they link to an IPFS link that the actual Bored Ape collection also links to. So is Ryder Rips's thing on chain, right? Because it's the actual art on that collection is not the Bored Ape image. The actual art is the token, right? So are Ryder Rip's Bored Apes on chain? So like a question that I was asking myself, and I thought, okay, how do you put conceptual art? Not all art is an image file. Not all art can be contained within a JPEG or a PNG. Not all art can be contained on a canvas. Sometimes art is an installation. Sometimes it's the way that you light a room. Sometimes it's an idea. Sometimes it's a sculpture. Sometimes it's a banana duct taped to a wall. Sometimes it's graffiti. Art can be so many things. And I think I was thinking we're very boxed in. we're very boxed into this way of thinking that art has to sit within a flex box and a CSS, HTML page on OpenSea, and anything that extends beyond the borders of what Manifold will show you, what Foundation or Super Rare or any of these things will show you, is not art. Art is only what is in the box. And I think that sucks. And I think that we need to move past that. I think the NFT space, maybe this is egotistical, but I thought we need some help getting past this point. And I feel like I've seen this kind of like thread that I don't see anyone else talking about. So how do I showcase this? So it's kind of long-winded. I'm just kind of rambling. I'm not. I didn't think about how to tell this story before I started telling it. So hopefully it's not too meandering.
Well, say what it is, right? Because like I think the anyone looking
important.
At this, like, look at the image, okay, and what is an image and everything like this. But if you look at the image, what you will see, and what I find very cool, is it's and I'll just talk about it as a collector. I'm the first collector of this. I'm pretty smart. I know a couple things about art. So the image you will see is a distorted image in some ways, a glitched image, you might say, of a person wearing a shirt that says JPEG and holding a champagne bottle that is barely visible as such, and it says "Wag Me," but it's not actually the champagne bottle. It's like glitched over. It like appears twice. This, of course, is a glitched version of an X-copy thing, which was kind of the first colorful X-copy, you might call it, non-animated colorful X-copy called summer.jpg, which was meant to commemorate when things were good last summer. And this was an iconic X-copy work because it was a different style for him, but it was still distinctly X-copy. And so Punk 5629, who's a meme guy, basically bought this at the primary sale for like 800 grand or 900 grand or something like this. So this was like, when I saw that this happened, I was kind of like, I didn't see it happen in real time because I wasn't there, but I read about it happening. I was like, whoa, like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know who this X-copy guy is, but like, how is this thing worth so much money? Basically is what I was thinking. Like, I like it. Anyway, Dove version, which I love about it, is the glitched version, and it's basically like the contemporary summer.jpg. And it's not summer.jpg, it's summer.png, and it's actually a corrupted PNG. And this is what the summer JPEG summer looks like now. And it's not like a Wag Me situation as much now. This is kind of, I pair it as a counterpart to the Cyberpunks project, which is kind of like if CryptoPunks were to come out today, in recognition of the dark times, they would be Cyberpunks, and likewise, if summer.jpg were to come out today, it would not be summer.jpg, but rather summer.png, and it would be corrupted like this. So I love the look of it, but of course, the look of it, it's not like the image was drawn this way on a pixel by pixel basis. Dove, I believe, started with the summer.jpg image, and then from that created this in a very specific way. Is that right, Dove?
Yeah, that's a good recap. Thank you. So it's a series of 10 images. Middlemarch is now the owner of Moonlake 2, which features summer.jpg. And I started with the original image, and then it undergoes a process of turning it into a GIF. So there's 2 frames of animation, where the first frame is the glitched version, which is a glitch effect that I achieved with hex editing. So if you're familiar with like data bending, that's how I got the effect there. And basically there's a file format called PNG, but people don't know this. PNGs can be animated in the same way that GIFs can be animated, but it's not like a good format. So web browsers don't really like to support animated PNG files. You can do it, but the browser will get upset at you and try to display it in a different way, depending on what browser you're using. Because this is how software works and how file types work, is they kind of like deteriorate over time as like less developers want to support it or less users are asking for it. Just gets less support over time. So that's the idea of the work. is that depending on how you look at it, you're going to either see the distorted version or the real version. I'm actually going through right now. I haven't done it in a while. And right now, I don't know if my browsers have updated. I can't get it to show me the uncorrupted version on any of my 3 browsers. And it used to. It used to be on Google Chrome and Safari that if you tried to open the image, it would show you frame 2 of the animation, where frame 1 is the corrupted and frame 2 is the original image uncorrupted. So depending on what browser you're using, you'll either see the frame 1 or frame 2.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me too, dude. The whole thing is it's over. It's very ephemeral, actually.
Yeah, I expected it to last longer than a couple months. I feel like this is interesting. This is really the crux of the artwork, is that over time it will work less and less, and it'll become more confusing and random over time. I didn't expect it to happen this fast, but this is really fascinating. So I'm like distracted while I'm trying to play around with this and figure out what's going on. But anyways, if you right click and save the wow. Sorry, this is distracting. Now I'm having fun trying to decipher why it's not working. Which is the intent, is that it won't work. It's trying to
when you
say
open
that
it in preview, you can see it. And
Can
I'm
you?
in preview. I'm in the Mac OS, and yeah, you can see frame 1 is the messed up one, and then frame 2 is the perfect one. And so you can see it. You can go back and forth between it, but it's
this
not
is fascinating.
Yeah, it doesn't work exactly. If I put space, oh my God! If I do, okay, so if I do quick look, what's it called in Mac? Quick look. It does an amazing. I wish I could show this in the room without tweeting it, but it does an amazing back and forth effect. So yeah, I think it's a great artistic project.
Let me. I realized that I still haven't explained what it is. So the idea, and you can read. I'm sorry for being a bad explainer. I'm like distracted because now I'm fiddling with it and looking at it and getting distracted by it. But the idea is that IPFS won't last forever. IPFS is fallible. Putting work on chain is also fallible. The blockchain can go away. IPFS can stop getting support. Eventually, all of these things will go away in some form or another, as we've seen lots of things on the internet go away and die over time, and lots of technologies and lots of file formats have died. So things can die, and I wanted to put art on chain where the image itself is hosted on IPFS, but the conceptual idea of the artwork is stored on chain in the token description. So the token description is stored completely on chain, so that even if the picture is totally broken, or if IPFS dies, or people don't use IPFS anymore for whatever reason, you can't see the image, or you can't access it, or whatever, on the Ethereum blockchain, as long as the Ethereum blockchain exists, you'll be able to read what the artwork was. And this is kind of how the sale of conceptual artwork works in the real world, right? You don't buy the banana duct tape to a wall. You buy a piece of paper giving you instructions on how to duct tape a banana to a wall. And that's how you buy that work of art. So I thought,
but see, this is the paradox, though, Dub,
okay,
of what you're saying is like, don't you also need instructions on how to prepare the instructions? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a regress issue here. And I think a similar paradox exists within your Moonlake, because in it you describe the way to show it in a gallery setting, and you offer these very specific ideas about the visual appearance, but at the same time you're sort of saying that none of this matters, that the visual side doesn't matter. But of course, the text saying how to display it in a gallery also then doesn't matter. So I think it's an interesting paradox here, basically, because you can't. There is this regress, because if you were going to draw this circle and say hey, the image isn't the art. This other stuff is the art. Then it's like, okay, well, why is that stuff the art? Can you even call any of it art? Isn't it just, it is what it is. Like, here it is. It is what it is. There's no.
This is it. Is the whole idea is it, and you can't have only one part. Both parts are reliant on one another, right? I don't know. Moonlake is very funny to me. It's a real labor of love. I spent more time working on Moonlake than I did on Cyberfunks or Yunks in total, just ideating what it should be or what it should actually exist as. And sometimes I feel like I still don't understand it, which maybe that's a good thing or maybe that's a bad thing. But I think as my understanding of blockchain works and my understanding of like the philosophy of art expands, I have different ideas about it. So it's cool if this, I did a bad job explaining it, but if it sounds interesting, if you are intrigued by it, I really encourage you to just go read the token description. That is like the most concrete and easy place to try and get a handle on it. But it's very fun. I'm super proud of it and happy with this work, and I still like looking at it all the time.
And I'm psyched to break my rule and be a collector. I also would just point out, as I pinned here, Xcopy made the summer.jpg thing public domain, so that is one avenue here. All of Doug's work was leveraging public domain stuff, and this was the one contemporary meme thing that's public domain. So yeah, I think it's a cool project, and happy to be a collector of it. So that's a little peek into the into some of the earlier things that we did and how we got there. There's some also later things that we did that also are available for purchase. So, but that's not the subject of this episode. But both Moonlake and Punk Pixels are minting, so to speak, today. One is minted to Dove's wallet. The other thing, whatever, it's all working. Cyberpunk's not minting, even though that preceded Moonlake and was less work. As a potter, nothing is more frustrating than being told that a pot that you made when you were in high school is really good, because it's like, are you kidding me? It's like when I was growing up, there was this band called Bare Naked Ladies. And can I get some reactions if anyone knows who that band is? And Bare Naked Ladies, they're best known for the meme song they did called 1 Week. Now imagine if you're Bare Naked Ladies 20 years later and someone comes up to you and says, 1 week is amazing. You're probably like, oh, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to talk about my new things. And so that's a little bit what I feel sometimes. But at the same time, I love talking about these projects because they had a certain purity to them, because each one kind of had the feeling of this is my one project, and now I'm just sort of, cranking them out, just like coughing, just cranking out NFTs. Now I'm actually done creating or buying NFTs. I've listed everything. I did delist the Funk hoodie.
Oh, I figured it out.
Oh?
OpenSea has changed their storage mechanism for how images are displayed. So OpenSea used to host PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs, etc. as those file formats. But now I'm looking at it, and it appears they've changed all of their stuff to AVIF files, so like an HEIC.
Yeah, I've heard of this actually. Now that you say that, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so this is basically
that's why it doesn't work.
This is a perfect example of digital entropy, which is basically OpenSea saying, and I don't even think they saved money on this, but like OpenSea basically saying, we need to save some fucking money. We need to save some money on this, so we're gonna mediate this through another file format that's proprietary garbage. And now we're going to lose some things. We don't care what we lose, and we're not going to lose that much of what people actually look at, because they're looking at pixel art and stuff. So yeah, this is a perfect expression of this. Now, if you right-click Save and See, do you get the AVIF or do you get something nicer?
Okay, so and maybe Not Done has the answer to this too, but if you right-click and save it before you click on it to like blow it up big, it'll save as a PNG. But if you like click on it and then right-click save it, it'll do it as the as the AVIF. So thank you, OpenSea, for this cool, complicated system. What's up, Not Done?
Yeah, I had noticed that today, and I was going through some things, and I had a song like it was just it's just a song, and it has like a cover, and I noticed that, and there's an option to like download the song from the window that it opens up, but it doesn't download. It's like a button that doesn't work. I don't know if it's me or what, but I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah, I'm looking into that too right now. So yeah, it's kind of great, right? Like, that's why you go on chain, right, guys? Like, there's someone was talking about.
Well, yeah, this is the interesting thing, right? Because even if you are on chain, you can't escape the way that OpenSea wants to show your art.
Correct. Yeah.
So really, we need to force OpenSea and all of these, Web3 platforms to set some standards and quit changing stuff. Because for artists who like to really get into the weeds on these kinds of things and really make it complicated, kind of screws with our thing, makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and then you have the web browser, which is the ultimate OpenSea. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
That's what I was just getting. Yeah, it's like, well, and it's just like surprise, pop up. We've got billions of dollars and all these assets on this platform, and how many people have their assets that they've countless, yeah, and there's just no communication through them. It's just like, is this what we're looking, like down the road? Is it going to be like this, where these platforms are just kind of like these autonomous things that like you're always going to get automated messages through help, and like there isn't. I mean, that's to be seen, right? Like, because people will build better platforms and independent, but it's just very tacky. Like, it's just everything. It seems so tacky right now. Like, come on, guys. Like, we can't do better. Even like, I get it's like the corporate end of it all with and stuff like that, but where's all that money going?
I mean, it's pretty. OpenSea is, in their defense, a pretty complicated. It's probably one of those complicated things. I mean, it's pretty tough to build OpenSea. I think, like, if just
It's
the
very
amount
large.
of, just being able to deal with, OpenSea presents a very simplistic and clean version of the world, right? Like the amount of individual hacks and tricks in there to get all the contracts to work, and then storing an enormous amount of information on its servers, indexing everything so that you don't have to like do chain queries, and then storing all information about you and what your profile picture is. And then there's all the contracts. There's every single contract it has and all the details of that. Like if you said build OpenSea, that's a big project. So, I respect, I think it's probably the best DApp ever made, right? Like in terms of like a DApp type thing. So
Sure.
I got respect for OpenSea, but it does point to, it's good enough where it shows you, how frustrating it can be.
Do you think they just like they didn't prepare for how large it was going to be? Like they didn't build it to build it bigger. They didn't prepare for the scale that it is now. And the kind of
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gone down in scale too. So I think it might be a thing where they built it and then it got big really fast. They built it a lot bigger, and then now it's not maybe as big as we thought. So we have to like get efficiencies. This is the sort of startup cycle basically, and hit me pretty hard. Was you go big, you start spending money like it doesn't matter, and then you're like, maybe we want to save some money on the image hosting. So if I had to guess, I would say that they're doing a little bit of an optimization here. Serving the PNG is, I think, probably just easier, but less cost effective. So yeah, I think they probably have had to optimize a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, I think they got way even today, even 90% off their peak. They're so big, and it's such a complicated system. Typically when you if you think about like something like Twitter, Twitter is really hard to build, but it's really a scale kind of question. And they have abuse and this kind of thing and whatever, but like there's not like millions of dollars of commerce going on, through Twitter in this new way that no one's ever done before. So like, it's really it's really an interesting thing. But all right, so we got the final minutes. If you haven't appeared on a podcast today, then your personal brand is very bad. And don't take my word for it. Remember the GPT-3 quote about how you can reach a wider audience and share your insights on a podcast, which is this podcast right here. So don't wait until there's another podcast. You don't know when there'll be another opportunity. In this case, you will. Most of the cases, you won't. In this particular instance, there'll be another opportunity next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Very soon, it is Eastern Daylight Savings Time, EDT, but don't worry, on November 6th, it will be EST, which is what you all crave, you sick, twisted people. Anyway, who has a final remark or anything? Piv, Dov and I have talked a little bit. What are your final remarks? Final nuggets?
I have a final remark. What I really like about NFTs, and I think that's something you like too, is that it's fast. If you compare that to architecture, it's so slow. It takes 3 years or 4 years to build a building. And it just, once you start, you just can't stop. And with these NFTs, you can do something quickly and go to something new.
It's never as easy as you think it's going to be, though. That's where it is similar to architecture. But I agree.
It's not easy, but it's fast.
I agree. And that, by the way, is, I believe, true of, the NFT space and Web3 space that might not last forever. Like, I felt that way like 10 or 15 years ago with Web2. Like, I felt like you could just make a really quick thing that would be really cool, a website. You could make a Twitter clone really quickly. And then it kind of became, okay, well, then all the good ideas are taken. Sort of not exactly that. But I think in NFTs, why wouldn't there be a thing for every pixel of the punk? And so it was, and then, you make something quickly and it lasts, if not forever in the nerd way, at least like you don't have to keep paying for it. And that is pretty sick. So yeah, I think that's a good piece of, that's not really advice though, Piv. I would say that's more of just a thought, but I did ask for closing thoughts.
The advice could be do quick things instead of slow things.
Yes, worse is better.
It's funny that you say that because I feel I've been having the opposite thought where I wish sometimes that it was easier to like slow down. And I think right now I'm making a concerted effort to do less and to think about what I do more. Because I think you lose something when you go too fast. Oh, and it's funny. I just looked up. I'm staying at my brother's apartment. This is totally unrelated to anything I was saying. But I just looked up, and on the shelf of movies, there's a VCR of the movie Vertigo, and it just caught my eye. That's serendipitous.
Have you seen it? It's like the best one.
No.
Oh my God.
I don't think we have a VCR player here, but maybe I should.
You have to see the VHS version, the best version.
Sorry,
I don't know if that's true.
I meant VHS. That's really showing my age that I said that I didn't say VHS.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say, but.
What's up, Nunks?
No.
Hey guys, how's it going? What's up, Middle? What's up, Dove, Piv, Yoke? What's going on, guys? Hey, real quick about this OpenSea thing. I mean, imagine, like, I've been PNG from day one, right? Because of the whole JPEG deterioration stuff back doing sites and the integrity that PNG has. So I'm uploading stuff at 3,000 by 3,000. And now my buyer gets 1,000 by 1,000 back. And I'm thinking, I go to this extra link to ensure that when somebody buys one of my NFTs, they can literally probably screen copy it off. But what's going on now? Like we're sitting here doing all this. We're like artists here, right? And we have a consensus of what's good, what's bad. I mean, I like bare naked ladies, right? I mean, I'm good with it. And I'm thinking, why are we letting people put jackets and coats on our bare naked ladies now by uploading them to OpenSea? So yeah, I was kind of bummed at that. and then you know about the music thing. So now when you go to the homepage and you touch that freaking image, all of a sudden it starts playing a video. So are they going to end? You think they're like going to go full on MTV or something, guys?
It's a good question. I hope not. I think music, I did 10 years of my life in the music industry, and it's a rat's nest at best, in my opinion, dealing with everything with relating to music. So doing music, but I would love to see it. I think, if not be a part of it. Yeah, I mean, well, if you're uploading the thing, right, someone can go to the contract at the end of the day and get the real, version if it's on IPFS or something. I mean, that's, that is kind of one advantage that Web3 actually does give you, right? Where, if you go to some Web 2, you can go behind it and get the real, the real image, whereas that won't, that's not typically always the case. So, I think it's in its weakness, OpenSea is also showing us the magic of Web3, maybe, or something. It's also annoying, but yeah,
Well,
no, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm just curious how that's going to affect individual artists. Are we going to take less, care in our upload or delivery, and how's that going to channel? But for me, it's a bummer because of how much work I care about the end user wanting to maybe be able to print it out. A lot of my people, I provide a PDF if upon request for my OG holders. Like that's something I'm doing personally, but I just think anytime you take away from like 100% American made pure steel, and then you make it out of plastic and you put fake metallic on it, and I just think that's kind of what's happening, and I hope not, because that's kind of stuff like funkism and the kind of stuff people fight for. So I'm just, like I said, I'm stoked you guys do this show. Second time caller, long time listener. So keep up the good work, and thanks for the hosting the space and reminding me of bare naked ladies.
Hell
Thanks,
yeah,
dude.
appreciate that.
Right
Hell
on,
yeah.
guys.
All right.
Keep it up, man.
I just
Love.
realized it's not done. I call it not Dawn 3. So this is it. The final piece of career advice in the episode. By the way, I've been told that 2-hour podcast is like absurdly long anyway. So, we got to maybe talk about that. But for this week, we're getting the 2-hour special on the dot. Not done. Hit us. Let's talk. Sorry.
What's going on?
It's over. It's going to be not done.
I just wanted to, like maybe end on a positive note. There's a lot of negativity in the space, so I was wondering, like, from you three, what excites you about the space, and like, what drives you to keep doing what you're doing?
All right, let's hear from the oldest person first, Dove.
That's good. That's good. This is a good meme. What do I like about this space? That's a good question. I think, to be honest, I think this bear market has me introspective about what is good about this space and trying to figure that out and why I am here. I think that I really like the democratization of creativity and who is allowed to take up space, and the idea that if you work very hard and you output a lot, you will grow an audience, which is not how most of the world works. Like, to be frank, I think like that this is a greater social media thing, but it's very apparent in doing art in Web3. If you're trying to be a traditional artist, it's really about who you know, and in Web3, it's more about how many do you know, which has its own pros and cons, but is a much easier ask than knowing the right people. It's easier to know a lot of people than it is to know the right people. And I think that's an interesting aspect of this space. I'm not super bullish on the technology, which is maybe taboo, although I am also a bit of a Luddite, and I'm always afraid of new technologies. But yeah, I think it's a good time for introspection about that question. Why what are we doing here and what is the good reason to stay. But that's what comes to mind off top.
Yeah, for me it's a bit the same, but mostly the people you meet, and how odd is that? Is it that the three of us decide to do something together? That's like Middlemarch tweeted it, the CEO, an architect, and a Marine who live in very different parts, do something together and find some common things they're interested in. This is really the most bullish thing for me, that I saw this meme one time, and I can't find it back, but it was a group of very different people, like a young kid and an old man and fat and all together. And I think the title was Web3 Company or something. And I would really like to find it back, because it's really how it feels like being here. Then a kid from Turkey shows up in your DMs and says, I did this, what do you think? And that's really, really great.
I 100% agree. And everyone's got a pretty good sense of humor. Remember I said it's important to be funny? Like, that was what was interesting to me when I was first meeting. People got a pretty good sense of humor here. So keep a good sense of humor out there. That's not just a Zen Koan thing of saying, like, keep a sense of humor about life. Like, people want you to be funny. So have a good sense of humor. Be more funny. This has been the career-enhancing episode of Capsule 21, Episode 3, How to Enhance Your Career by Appearing on Podcasts. And you have learned how to do that by listening to advice, but also engaging and promoting your personal brand. This is a Twitter space and a podcast. If you would like to appear on it and promote your personal brand, you can stop by anytime, as long as it's a Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. You can follow me at Dumb Name Numbers. You can follow Dovetail at Dovetail with the O as a 0. And Piv is, what is Piv these days? Piv is at Piv, P-I-V _P-I-V. But I'm the one who hosts the space. So if you want to follow me, you'll see the space. Anyway, come hear the recording. Listen to it on Shopify, on Spotify, on all the great podcasters. And thank you, everyone, who has joined us. Thank you to my co-hosts. And that is it. See you next week. Goodbye. Capsule 21 out.